Hello and welcome to your comprehensive guide to losing fat. This is the no BS version, okay? There's so much misinformation on the internet. There's so much information as well that most people give over and over and over again in regards to fat loss that I very much disagree with, or that I don't see completely eye to eye on. For example, a calorie in equals a calorie out. I don't think it's as black and white as everyone has been preaching for years now. And also, I do have evidence to back what I'm saying up. We are going to delve so deep into this topic that I'm gonna have to do two parts to it because I cannot cover everything in one video. There is just so much information with this. This video would be 2 hours long if I tried to do it all in one video. I really want to get into the belly of the beast here and really cover some topics that you haven't actually seen before online. They just give you the same fat loss chat over and over and over again. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm sure you guys are too. You know that I don't stray away from controversies. I embrace them with open arms. Here are my results on the screen. I've bulked and cut a billion gajillion times over at this point. I've done this so many times and I've lost all the fat again and again and again and again. I'm actually currently going into a cut now, so I'm starting to cut for the summer. So I thought it was a perfect time to post this video. And a real reason as to why I haven't made this before is because I knew it would be slightly controversial. I feel like people in the fitness industry are so set in their ways and they're so one-minded, not all of the time, but a lot of the time. Like, you can eat whatever you want as long as your calories are X, Y, and Z, or this is what you have to do, and if you don't see progress, it's just because you're not doing it hard enough, like you're not eating few enough calories, or you're not doing this enough or that enough. And especially with fat loss, it's such a multifaceted, complex system because it's not one-dimensional as much as people on the internet love to make it very, very simple and black and white. I am the complete opposite in my beliefs towards fat loss. Another disclaimer as well, because this is such an intricate video that I feel like I really need to preface. In science, you can abso-freaking-lutely have confirmation bias. If you guys have heard of confirmation bias, it's where you want to believe one thing and you only look for things that prove your belief. And if you were the type of person to be like, yep, a calorie in versus a calorie out is it, there is nothing else to it, you will subsequently find studies that back up that theory. There are so many extra factors that are not being taken into account in many of these studies, and the outcome of studies can very, very, very much be swayed without adding in a bunch of variables. So yeah, I just want to preface with that. I'm not going to delve too much into that because we will get into that within this video. Don't get stuck in being too one-minded about anything. I think that's always bad in any subject on the planet. If you want to go and do your own research, if you're really interested in the science background of things, everything will be linked down in the description box if you wish to do so. Also know, just so I don't get sued here, that this is all for informational purposes. I am not a doctor. I am not giving you medical advice, so please don't sue me, okay? I'm actually going to start with the biggest one first, which honestly might take up the majority of this video. This is going to be a very large segment. It has to be for this topic because there's no way I can just say this quickly and then just be like, peace. So the first chapter of our dissertation at this point is a calorie in versus a calorie out question mark. Do not get me wrong, I abso-freaking-lutely believe that calories matter. There have been multiple studies showing that calories matter. However, I don't believe that it's as black and white as the fitness industry has loved telling us for the past 10, 20 years. And to start off this explanation, because this is a big statement that I'm making, and I understand that, but let's break it down. How could it be possible with all of the different effects that your gut microbiome has on your entire system, with how fast or how slow you lose fat? Your metabolism plays a absolutely ginormous role in how quickly you lose fat. Even though protein might have, the calories in it, our body actually uses more calories in order to process the protein because it takes longer to digest. It uses more energy. And I'm just laying the groundwork here, and we're going to go deeper into the subject, but just to lay the groundwork, put some bricks down. It is very, 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 very simplistic to say that every single calorie is the same. Everything in our body is interlinked. And over time, you will store more fat from a bunch of different reasons when you are having a diet of ultra processed food. Just today, a calorie might be a calorie, but over the long run, you're sort of accumulating, a very poor gut health system, or that may be slowing down your metabolism, or maybe causing you massive insulin spikes, or maybe messing up your hormones really badly, which has been proven. Hormones have been proven to store more fat, or stress levels, if you're super highly stressed, has been proven to increase your fat storage and make it harder for you to lose fat. But now that we've set the groundwork, it's time to actually go into each and every single detail and break it all down. I just really want to crack this subject open, okay? Let's start off with factor number 1, and that is insulin. This is not just my opinion, this is factually proven time and time again. If you are insulin resistant, you actually struggle to lose fat more than someone who isn't insulin resistant. If that is the case, how on earth could a calorie just be broken down the exact same way as any other calorie, regardless of what that calorie is made out of? You might also ask, what causes insulin resistance? And in the majority of cases, insulin resistance is caused by eating certain types of food. So typically foods with a super high sugar content, and no, I'm not referring to things like fruit, because the difference with fruit is that fruit has a super high fiber content, which makes us digest the sugar entirely different to something that has just got a ridiculous amount of ultra processed sugar. We all know that foods that have a super high sugar content do actually make our blood sugar levels spike. It makes our blood sugar levels rise. Forgot to mention as well, when your blood sugar rises very, very quickly and very consistently, over time that will lead to insulin resistance, which is basically your body not responding and not processing insulin in the correct way, or in like an efficient way, which is what I'm about to go into explaining, but I forgot to explain the specific point. And if you're resistant to insulin, you will store a lot more of that sugar as fat. Now take one person with 100 calories of strawberries and another person with 100 calories of super sugary, terribly ultra processed cereal. Those 100 calories are not going to be processed the same by your body. Insulin is an absolutely ginormous contributor into fat gain, into weight gain, into people struggling to lose fat. So if it is such a massive contributor, how could those exact same calories, but from different foods and different sources, how could they possibly be processed the same into the exact same amount of fat storage as each other? It just logically does not make sense. Yes, calories do matter to an extent, but it's not so black and white in regards to, okay, 100 calories from wherever you derive it is going to impact your body the exact same.
Time we're spending in physical activity and the energy we're burning off is increasing, and yet our metabolic rate, our resting energy expenditure, is declining. So we're eating less, and we're moving more, and getting fatter. And what could be causing increased insulin secretion? Well, that's nutrition 101. All of the carbohydrates, and especially the processed carbohydrates that flooded our diet, especially during the low-fat years, when we were focusing on reducing energy density, and sugars and starches were considered at least innocuous, if not actually helpful, to dilute fat energy. And that's the terms that was used as little as a quarter of a century ago.
Calories as a unit of measurement, the exact same. If you take a bowl of highly processed cereal and then a steak, side by side, and they both have exactly 100 calories, the unit of measurement isn't debatable. It's just basically like saying something weighs a certain amount and the other thing weighs a certain amount. It's a unit of measurement. I'm not debating that whatsoever. I completely agree that 100 calories is 100 calories when it comes to measurement. However, the way our body digests those things and the way our body processes it is entirely different, because it's not just the unit of measurement, it's what those things are actually made out of. We don't just digest every single calorie in the exact same way. And I will give you an example of this. macronutrient intake, and insulin resistance in 5,665 randomly selected adults. This study analyzed the diets of over 5,000 adults to see how different macronutrients relate to insulin resistance. It found that higher intake of saturated fats and refined carbohydrates, processed food, was associated with increased insulin resistance, while diets rich in unsaturated fats and whole grains were linked to better insulin sensitivity. And this study literally demonstrates the fact that the quality of your macronutrients affect insulin resistance and fat storage, also indicating that calories from different sources have a different impact on metabolism. You're not taking into account what that calorie is made out of, what are the building blocks for that calorie, what is in that calorie, how does your body digest the things that are in that specific calorie. It's just negates so much information when we just boil it down to a calorie versus a calorie. Another one as well from 2018, the carbohydrate insulin model of obesity. Carbohydrate insulin model suggests that highly processed carbohydrates common in ultra processed food, the things that we find pretty much everywhere nowadays, lead to higher insulin secretion, promoting fat storage and increased hunger. Supporting evidence is low glycemic whole food diets increase fat oxidation and reduce overall fat gain compared to high glycemic ultra processed foods. Again, insulin will affect how you store fat. And if insulin affects how you store fat and foods have a massively large impact on our insulin and our insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, then how is it possible that all of those things aren't interconnected and don't affect each other? Do you see where I'm going with this? Quite crazy amount of proof that insulin is a massive obesity factor.
Say body fat equals calories in minus calories out, right? And that's always true. But that's not the way it always works, right? Because that assumes that the calories can go in and out of the body fat, which is the storage, anytime it wants. But it can't. Right? So you think about your fridge, right? Your fridge is a store of food. So you go to the grocery store, you buy food, you store some of it in the fridge, and you eat some of it. But what if there's a lock on that fridge?
I have in fact decided to sit down because standing up was getting a little bit too much. That is basically the insulin portion of this video. I know that's a very big portion just for insulin, but I feel like it's one of the most important things. We are a multifaceted, beyond understanding, complex being that is impossible just to equate it down to like, yep, this just equals this and that's it. It's not logical at all, and I hope you guys can see where I'm coming from with this argument too. Before we go into the second thing that also relates to a calorie not quite being just a calorie in regards to fat loss, I do have an ultimate fat loss plan. Do not feel like the fat loss plan is essential. You don't need to have it, but if you are someone that likes something just summarized, put together neatly, there's also voice audios kind of coaching you through the whole thing. And obviously I'm giving you all of this information in these videos, but that guide really goes through step by step on how to implement every single thing that I talk about in here, and also covers a wider range of topics as well in the plan. Obviously I only have a certain amount of time to do these videos, like I can't make them 5 hours long. The link is down in the description box. I also have a fasting plan and a 6-month-long glute plan as well. I always price my guides quite cheap, like cheaper than I've seen anybody else do them, for the information load that is in there as well, because there is a lot. Anyways, continuing on to the next segment, the gut microbiome. So a study in Nature 2006 found that gut bacteria can influence how effectively calories are absorbed, affecting body fat levels. Another one in PubMed. By the way, guys, just a pre-warning, whenever it comes to gut bacteria and the gut microbiome, the names that they come out with are really hard to say, so please excuse me when I pronounce these. Studies have shown that individuals with a higher proportion of Firmicutes to Bacteroidetes in their gut microbiota may extract more calories from the same amount of food compared to those with a lower ratio, potentially leading to increased fat deposition. Diets high in processed foods are rapidly absorbed in the upper gastrointestinal. There we go. I don't know if it's like the Brazilian in me that just can't pronounce things, but providing more calories to the human body and leaving fewer nutrients for the gut microbiota. In contrast, high fiber diets allow more substrates to reach the colon, nourishing beneficial bacteria and potentially reducing overall calorie absorption. So, and there are so much more, by the way. I'm only reading out a few, otherwise I'll be reading them out the whole video. It's the entire subject again. I'm not gonna give the same speech that I just did with the insulin thing, because you kind of get the gist at this point. Like, you get where I'm going with this. It's the same, different, but the same thing in regards to how we store fat. If we store more fat, how much of the nutrients we actually absorb. You know what drives me crazy, right? I know this mic keeps going like everywhere. It drives me slightly clinically insane to see how many people get angry over this topic when it's just like sometimes I think maybe I'm actually going crazy, because it's like, how is there this much evidence? Like, there is so much evidence out there, like a ridiculous amount of studies, so many factors interlinking to this exact topic, but still so many fitness gurus out there. And honestly, I'm not even personally attacking anyone. That was me, okay? That was me. I used to make loads of videos, how to lose fat, calorie in versus this calorie out, and that's all that matters. If you just have a Domino's pizza for the entire day, you'll be okay. Like, I'm not even slating anyone, because I get it. Like, I used to believe the same thing, because that was what was also fed to me, and then fed, down to maybe the people that watched that video that I made. I was part of the problem, okay? We're all part of the problem, realistically, because I feel like we need to approach things with a much more open mind. But yeah, back onto the topic of gut microbiome. We know for a fact that it can influence how we absorb certain nutrients. We know that the fiber content in food is also very important. Our gut microbiome responds completely different. Like, we know for a fact that there are many sweeteners out there that are absolutely just catastrophic for our gut microbiome. And it also, this is an entirely different topic which I will not get into in this video, because I will be speaking for a very long time. But the overall case of Coca-Cola is a huge prime example of this. It's again with the whole Coca-Cola situation where, they've got full fat Coke, as people call it, and then they have like Coke Zero. There is a ridiculous amount of sweeteners. A lot of the sweeteners that we're using nowadays might not have calories per se, but they are absolutely catastrophically changing your gut microbiome, which is then leading to an array of other issues, which those issues then compound into different issues. For example, research in diabetes care found that sucralose increased insulin levels by 20% in obese individuals, which is a variable that we need to account for, which could promote fat storage over time. But then there's also other ones, like this study that says artificial sweeteners induce glucose intolerance by disrupting gut bacteria, which decreased metabolic efficiency, increased fat storage, and increased glucose intolerance. And also, sweeteners have been known to increase our appetite and our cravings, because sweeteners trick the brain into expecting sugar, but then no real glucose arrives. It triggers actual cravings for high calorie foods. So the more sweeteners you have, the more you want to consume. We absolutely know for a fact, indisputable, that protein burns more calories when consumed compared to carbohydrates. Just for example's sake, if you had the same exact person had initially a diet of 2,000 calories with zero protein, just carbohydrates and fats, which would be almost impossible to do, really, because there's always a bit of protein in everything, but for the sake of this example, and then a month after that they had the exact same amount of calories, but their entire diet was just protein, and that's it, just protein. You cannot tell me that the protein only person would not be in a much larger caloric deficit than the person that had no protein at all. And that completely busts the theory that a calorie is just a calorie, because it's not. It highly depends on what that calorie is made out of, to the degree on which your body is going to process it, to how many calories you're going to burn while you process it. That's why lean meats are always such a valuable tool in fat loss, because they satiate you, they curb hunger. There's only so much of it you can eat before you are absolutely stuffed. And also, you burn more calories when you eat it. So obviously that makes protein a hell of a great component for fat loss. Food has different thermogenic effects, and if we burn more calories by eating a certain type of food, then yes, the input of calories might be the same, but the output is completely different. My example here is to also again combat the theory that a calorie is just a calorie, because we have all of this scientific evidence proving the complete contradiction of a calorie is just a calorie. There are actually more points in this category, but I don't think I'm going to cover every single one of them because I'd be here for a long time. But I think you get the point that yes, calories matter. I am by in no way, means, shape, or form saying that you should not ever track calories and that it's all a complete myth. I'm not saying that at all. Of course, calories do matter. If you are technically in a surplus or in a deficit, you will gain or lose weight. However, there are so many more contributing factors as to how much fat gets stored, how much muscle mass you might keep. Like, the macronutrients are crazily important. And also, if you're eating ultra processed foods or whole foods, really wanted to like bust the myth, I guess, that it doesn't matter what you eat, a calorie is a calorie, because I also feel like there are devastating long-term consequences of thinking like that. Even though, for example, you may be in a deficit and you may be eating just awful, super highly ultra-processed food all the time, 24/7, maybe you're still losing fat right now. Maybe you're still losing weight right now. You very well could still be. It doesn't mean that you'll never lose weight if you eat ultra-processed food. Of course, you can still lose weight on ultra-processed food, but what does that do to the body long-term? Maybe it's fine for a year or two, but after that, where is your metabolism at? How's your gut health doing? And the minute you start, increasing those calories again, you're probably going to have to face some very severe consequences from those actions. One of the doctors online was giving one of his patients like type 1 diabetes medication, and she would stop, which is terrible, you should never do this, but she would stop taking the medication because she realized that if she didn't take the medication, she would just never store fat. How is that humanly even possible if a calorie is just a calorie? If people need insulin in order to store fat to begin with, and type 1 diabetes people may struggle with producing insulin, and that's why they really struggle to put weight on without their medication. If that's the case, and if you actually completely take away insulin from an individual, they simply cannot store fat. And if food then influences your insulin resistance and your insulin sensitivity, right. Sorry, this subject really winds me up because it's just so contradictory to everything we've been taught for so long. And I've got goosebumps. Like, it really gets my gears going, I don't want anyone to watch this and feel like, oh my God, like, how am I ever going to lose fat? Like, if there's so many different variables and this and that, like, abso-freaking-lutely not. Like, that is not what I want anybody to take away from this video at all. I will get further into the video. I'm going to break this down and make it super simple. Like, this is all the information, but in the video, further in, you will get a very, very simple way to do things. I promise you. It might have to be in part 2, but I'm going to explain it in a super simple way. It'll be on the screen when part 2 is out. It won't be long though in between the 2 videos, so don't worry, part 2 will be coming. But we're going to circle back to what you can do about the calorie situation in part 2. The next little category that we are speaking about is fat loss plateaus. So a lot of people start their calorie deficit, or they start tracking calories, or they start, doing a bit of a cut, eating healthier, and then they'll lose maybe a bunch of weight to begin with. After a few months, it'll just slow down, and sometimes they're very confused, like, hey, what the hell? Why is my fat loss progress just completely stunted? Why has it stopped? And the biggest reason for that is typically metabolic adaptation. This is when your metabolism gets used to the amount of calories that you're giving it. If you're living off of 1,500 calories every single day for a year, please bear in mind that I'm speaking specifically about good whole food calories. Your metabolism adapts to those calories, to that energy basically that you're giving it. If you're giving it very little energy, you'll actually spend less energy on other things. So for example, you might not fidget as much, you might be very still in order to conserve energy, and it's very unnoticeable. You might start feeling more tired, you might just start really lagging. A huge reason for people plateauing after a while is that your metabolism is just slowed down. And if you just keep going less and less and less and less and less food, you're gonna have a problem. Like, it's gonna become an issue, because the minute you start eating normal again, or like more food, you are gonna put on more fat quicker. A huge component of that is making sure that you're not in a calorie deficit consistently year round, year in, year out. It's so bad for your metabolism, and you will slow it so far down if you consistently do that. A good way to do this, which most people in the gym do sort of without even realizing, is like there's different phases. So having some months where you're like slightly bulking, having some months where you're slightly cutting, having some recomping months, like that will all actually be very beneficial to your metabolism, because you'll be reaping all of the rewards, but without actually drastically slowing your metabolism down through a very long extensive cut. For example, if you're doing a cut, having a refeed day, just eat back at like maintenance on the weekends can be really, really handy, just to kind of keep your metabolism from slowing down as much. I don't mean with cheat days. Cheat days is a whole entire different subject, because that is just like a bunch of ultra processed food typically. But I believe in having such a good diet plan that every single day you're getting something that you love. You never feel like you're missing anything. You never feel like you need a cheat day. It's never like, oh my God, let me just get to the Saturday and then just absolutely go crazy, because then you're averaging out the whole week as still in a surplus. And again, I'm speaking about calories now because they are still important. Other benefits that you could really, really, really be missing out on if you're not having a good, nutritious whole food diet. So first of all, whole foods, high protein foods, good fats even, they leave us satiated for longer. We feel fuller, we don't feel as many cravings, we don't want to, binge out on a bunch of food, because we feel satisfied, we feel satiated, and also it controls your ghrelin hormone a lot better. It is really important to make sure that your diet is good, not just purely for calories in versus calories out, blah, 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 all of the stuff I mentioned before, but actually dieting or eating, in a deficit, trying to lose fat, becomes a billion gajillion times easier if you are actually having nutritious, good, whole foods. You'll feel so full throughout the day. Like, cutting does not have to be a starvation process. You really do not need to be starving yourself at all. You can actually eat plenty of food as you're losing fat, but it's just what foods are you eating? That's why protein is so absolutely amazing. And also, so you prevent the breakdown of your muscle tissue, because we don't really want to lose muscle mass. We want as much of it as humanly possible, because muscle mass will also speed up your metabolism. Yes, it speeds up your metabolism. The more muscle mass you have, the faster your metabolism, the more you can eat. It's a win-win, and protein really contributes to keeping that muscle mass while you are in a cut, which is so important. I do believe in tracking calories if you can track them. If they don't, trigger you in any way, then I feel like it's still a great, great, great method to do. Not because it's 1,000% accurate. I don't believe it's 1,000% accurate at all, really. But it really does get you used to what you're eating and the quantities of what you're eating. So even though it's not like a perfect accuracy situation because of how food is digested and everything I spoke about before, if you are eating like 95% whole food, good, nutritious, whole meal, high protein diet, then I think it is super valuable to still track calories, because I feel like it gives you a very good scope of how much you're actually eating, and it can still be incredibly helpful for keeping track of fat loss. I think it is a super, super, super good thing to still do. I am never, ever, ever against tracking calories. I just don't think that should be your main priority. I feel like the first thing that is by far the most important thing is what you're eating. That just overrules absolutely everything. And if your diet is already amazing, then I feel like tracking calories after the fact is a great way to go further into your cut, because then you can actually start seeing how much you're eating every day and then slowly start reducing that. So you actually are reducing the amount of food that you're intaking. Before you do anything, before you even think of tracking, get your diet right first. And then once you've stopped losing fat from doing that, then you can start tracking and very slowly, week to week, just reducing by like 50 calories a week. I'm not gonna lie to you, I've been trying to film the rest, but I think my head is just not working anymore. Part 2, we're gonna speak about, there's just so much. I don't even know how I'm gonna cover all this in just 2 parts. There is just so much to cover in this subject. Like, I actually thought I could maybe do it in 2 parts, but I'm just realizing, like, either I talk for really long, or there's just too much to cover in this topic. Even the guide is like, what, 130 pages long, and then hours and hours and hours of voice recordings. But the next part, we're covering so much more. We're covering some of the key principles that I feel like are so important to consider for fat loss, more of why diets don't work. We're covering fasting as well. We're covering, oh my god, there's loads. We're covering all the types of different foods to eat for fat loss, what to avoid. We're literally going through everything you need to know about reading food labels as well, emotional eating, the triggers, how to stop it. We're also doing more about fiber. We're also doing workouts as well, like about what work. To be fair, that is actually also a very controversial one, which I need to make sure I'm really well prepped to speak about. And then actual implementation of all the advice. Holy guaca frickin' moly. If you guys want everything, all of this information that I'm covering in this video and the next one and probably the next one after that, all about fat loss, literally summarized in really easy to digest, easy ways to implement everything you could possibly want to know about fat loss, and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of me doing a voice recording to sort of talk you through everything, that will be in the description box down below. Again, you do not need to get that. It is just for the people that might really want like a plan to follow, and more of like an instructional piece. You do have all of the knowledge here to sort of make your own plans and make your own decisions about how you're eating, how you're doing. Really hope you girlies enjoyed this video. You found it really informative, really helpful. I also have to say as well, like I prefaced in my glute building video with all the science about glute building, you don't need to be this perfect, okay? Like, I will tell you everything you need to do in order to have, you know, the leanest physique ever, but it's not necessary to do all of this. It's so much, and also we are human. Like, I know all this information, but I don't do all of this because sometimes, like, I just want to live freely. I just want to go out with friends and have dinner at a restaurant and not care about like what I'm intaking, and that is completely fine. I would hate for anybody to walk away from this video or, you know, this series that I'm doing and think to yourselves like, oh my god, I have to, you know, be this perfect person and then stress about it and then overwhelm yourselves. Remember that this is just the science part of it, okay? But there's also the emotional component. There's also making life enjoyable for yourselves. Actually be fun and, you know, excited about making progress and not feel as if it's like this huge chore that's this never-ending chase of perfection that honestly does not even freaking exist. Don't walk away from this video or anything in the series thinking like, I have to do this huge list of things that Bella said. Like, no, you really don't. Even something as simple as just eating a bit better, having more whole foods will actually make such an incredible difference in your mind, in your body, in your health, everything. Please don't walk away from this video, panic and overwhelm yourself and then wear yourself out and drain yourself and then end up hating fitness because you feel like there's just so many compartments of it that you need to perfect. You absolutely do not need to be perfect. Doing anything whatsoever, any step in the right direction, changing out some like ultra processed cereal in the morning and having eggs instead is already such a absolutely freaking gigantic step in your health, in your fitness journey, everything. Like, every small step counts. Please do not let this video make you feel as if like you have to be perfect, otherwise what's the point in doing anything? That would be my worst fear. of anybody taking that away from this video. So please take it all with a grain of salt. You don't need to be perfect. Nobody is perfect with all of this. Like, you still need to enjoy life. You still need to go out with friends. You still need to have fun. I will see you all in the next part of this series. I really, 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 really hope you all love this series, because I am very, very, very excited about it. So hopefully you guys love it, and hopefully you find this informative. Please leave a comment down below about any opinions or questions or literally anything at all. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have a chat in the comment section down below. And also on Instagram at Bella's Fit Guides broadcast channel. We have loads of girly chats in there where you can all reply and we can have a little chit chat. But yeah, that is everything. I will see you in part 2, which will be out very, 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 very soon. Keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, I love you all so much. Bye bye.